On today's episode of Locked On Wild, NHL Edge stats are not kind to the Minnesota Wild. Wait till you see the results.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we dive into the NHL Edge stats to see what they have to say about key areas for the Minnesota Wild. We'll focus on shot selection, shot speed, some of the just shot mechanics for this Minnesota Wild team that was shut out against the Dallas Stars yesterday. And it reinforces pretty consistently what we have been saying all season. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, and just want to remind everybody that we will have a postcast tonight after the game against the Vegas Golden Knights. So make sure to join us for that, as we will see if the Wild can bounce back from a loss last night to the Dallas Stars, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights here this evening. Declan Chisholm day-to-day, and Marc-Andre Fleury in net for the Wild here tonight. But I wanted to talk mainly today about some things that we're seeing with this Minnesota Wild team that reinforce the struggles offensively that we've seen from this Minnesota Wild roster. It's a team that has struggled to score, is still in the midst of a really tough stretch of just not being able to generate a ton of goals. Now, I will contend that I think that the Wild are generating chances. They generated a good amount of chances against Dallas. Finishing is a big problem for this team. And what I mean by finishing is being able to actually cash in on those opportunities. 9 high danger shot attempts against the Dallas Stars and an expected goals on high danger chances alone of 4.2. And you don't get anything. Now, a lot of that is credit to Jake Ottinger for the performance that he put together. But the high danger chances are the ones that you just absolutely have to have. And you'll be surprised to know that the Minnesota Wild are near the bottom of the list in just about every shot metric there is from a scoring perspective. So let's go through them here. This is NHL Edge, courtesy of the NHL. That's their advanced statistics. And I dove into this earlier this afternoon in preparation for today's episode. And so let's talk about it. Let's start with, let's just start by taking a look at shot speed. Now, the Minnesota Wild have recorded, this whole thing's going to be eye-opening, but we'll start with shot speed, then we'll go to shot selection, and we'll go to skating speed as well. The Minnesota Wild recorded a top shot speed of 98.24 miles per hour. Pretty fast. The league average in that department is 99.6. So keep that in mind. Keep that number in mind. 98.24 is the high water mark for the Minnesota Wild. And that's like a grip it and rip it one-timer, just blasting one towards the net. Those are pretty tough to stop, right? Let's go through this. The average shot speed for the Minnesota Wild, 61.22%. 61.22 miles an hour. League average in that department is 61.18. So the Wild are slightly above league average as far as average shot speed. 54th percentile. 100 plus mile an hour shots, they have none. League average is 0.69. So that's not a very frequent occurrence. But let's look at some of these other numbers. 90 to 100 per 100 mile an hour shots. The Minnesota Wild have 18 total. League average is 45.53. That's league average. So the Wild are woefully low in that department, below 50th percentile in that mark. Even 80 to 90 mile an hour shots. The Minnesota Wild have recorded 274. League average, 325. So again, substantially below league average in just an 80 to 90 mile an hour shot. 70 to 80 mile an hour shots, the Minnesota Wild are slightly above league average once again. 858. League average is 855. So slightly above league average, which what this tells me is think about all the times we have seen kind of those floater shots from the top of the zone, as opposed to being able to work it towards the goalie, get to between the face-off circles and in, and really let one fly. Also think about the number of one-timers that the Wild have whiffed, missed, or only gotten partial credit on. They're not getting a lot of power on their shots. And that there are a combination of factors that lead to that for this team. Number one is you have an aging roster. So they're not able to get a ton of power on the shot anymore. So that's one factor. The location that the shots are coming from. And a lot of times the shot is the first shot into the zone where you haven't been in the zone for a while and you send one towards the goalie just to make sure that they're paying attention. So a quality of shots issue. But I was actually pretty floored to see these numbers as to just how far below. Now, Kirill Kaprizov, I think, especially from the higher velocity shots department, I think he can really help you out there. But this is also because this team relies so much on those deflections out in front. And not having that in their pocket has hurt the overall goals. But it just reinforces the point that this isn't a team that has a dearth of offensive talent. And you look at two of your key players, Marco Rossi and Joel Eriksson, they're more net front guys. So a lot of their goals are scored on deflections right in front, which is not like a blistering shot from anywhere. And you have plenty of other players who drive the net and shoot in close when they shoot at all. So it's something that it's not something that's going to be fixed unless you get somebody that has like a really powerful shot. Think about David Jiricek. That's one thing that we've heard with him since he was acquired by the Minnesota Wild. Heavy shot, powerful shot, somebody that can really let one fly from the top of the zone. The Wild don't have a lot of those types of players. So this is not something that they're going to be able to fix. And I would imagine this is about where the Wild have been for the last several seasons, because this is not just a this year problem. It is there are a lot of players that are contributing to this. So the thing to take away is, as far as shot speed goes, the Wild are not getting a lot of oomph on their shots. so far this season. Now, the biggest one, and this is one we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down, is the shot location. That's another issue for this team. And it's going to be pretty easy to see why when we dive in. So we're going to take a look at shot location for the Minnesota Wild so far this season as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra dollars to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the nets. For those that have teams that are still alive in your bracket, mine is mostly toast, thanks St. John's. You can line things up for this weekend. Thursday, the madness resumes. So you'll have no shortage of choices for where your $5 bet goes. Put it on the higher seed. Put it on the lower seed. Put it on a team to cover the second half over. Your options are endless with FanDuel. And if you put down a $5 bet and you win, $200 in bonus bets right there. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells option. Honey roasted is my go-to. Literally have one over on my coffee table right now. It's my go-to snack, and it can be yours as well. You are going to love them the moment you crack open a bag. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. A little bit of a deep dive statistically for the Minnesota Wild here today. Just looking at the NHL Edge stats, trying to kind of reinforce that this is a team that needs some help offensively. Let's move to the biggest one. This is the one that I think is the biggest issue for the Minnesota Wild this season. Shot location. And we'll look at where the Wild rank compared to league average. And you're not going to believe it. They are well below they're well below the pack in a lot of different areas. So let's start with high danger. The Minnesota Wild have 461 high danger shot attempts, shots on goal. 461 shots on goal from the high danger area this season. League average is 511, just under 512. That puts the Wild below the 50th percentile in terms of high danger shots on goal. High danger goals, the Wild have 83. The league average is 101.8, so just under 102. So you're about 20 lower in high danger goals. And shooting percentage, the Wild shooting 18% from the high danger area. League average is 19.9. So 2% lower. That is below 50th percentile in all three of those metrics, which is very bad. Below 50th percentile is obviously, if you're going on a grading scale, that's an F. Let's look at the mid-range. Minnesota Wild, shots on goal in the mid-range this year, 488. League average is 546.5. So 547. So you are like 60 medium danger shots on goal lower than league average in that department. Now, the goals is a pretty close gap. 61 medium danger goals for the Minnesota Wild. League average is 63.9, 64. So you're slightly below there. And actually, the Minnesota Wild have a higher shooting percentage than league average in the medium danger department at 12.5. League average is 11.7. So slightly below, but still 58th percentile, which is still an F. And long range, this is, again, a problem. Just look at the shooting percentage from the long range areas. Shots on goal, the Wild have 463. League average is 425. They're in the 77th percentile in that department, which is not one that you want to be. You don't want to be substantially above average in the long range or the low danger opportunities. In low danger goals, the Wild have 17. League average is 14.6. So you're in the 74th percentile there. Shooting percentage on these shots is 3.7% for the Minnesota Wild, and league average is 3.4. So the Wild are in the 58th percentile in terms of shooting percentage from that location. All told, all locations, the Wild have 1,936 shots on goal compared to league average, which is 1,992. Goals, the Wild have 192 compared to 210.8 for the league average. And shooting percentage, all told, the Wild are at 9.9%, and league average is 10.6. Below 50th percentile in all of those areas. And like, it just, the thing that jumps out to me right there is you have we've seen this team and the reliance on these low danger opportunities, especially in the power play, without having your key net front players to deflect pucks in front. Like, it's one thing if you're going to send a shot from up top through a screen, or you have a player in position to try to get a rebound, but the Wild have not been doing that consistently either. And substantially below in the high danger areas, which should be your default. Your default should be to get to the net and get those shots in close. And that's the best way that you have to be able to try to fight through different struggles, different slumps. Go to the net. That needs to be your default spot. But the Wild are well below average in all of those high danger categories. Now, as far as percentage of time that you spend in each zone, the Wilds spend, let's go even strength first. The Minnesota Wild spend 40.8% of their time in the offensive zone. League average is 41.7. So it's not a huge difference, but even a 0.9% over the course of a full season, that adds up. And that puts the Wild at below 50th percentile, below the 50th percentile range for offensive zone time. Neutral zone time, the Wild are at 18.1% compared to 18.4, which is league average. Again, below 50th percentile. And time spent in the defensive zone is at 41% at even strength, and league average is 39.9, which is also below 50th percentile. So not enough time in the offensive zone, too much time in the defensive zone. Neutral zone is where it needs to be. But more time in the offensive zone, which means more puck possession, more time just holding the zone and creating multiple shots which you do by going in close as opposed to settling for those perimeter looks that we so often see. On the power play, the Minnesota Wilds, on average, spend 58.2% of their time in the offensive zone, which is league average. So they're at the 61st percentile there, which is a D. Neutral zone time, 13.9%. League average is 14. So that's below 50th percentile. And defensive zone time on the power play is 28%. League average is 27.8. Again, these percentages add up over the course of a full season. And again, below 50th percentile in all of those metrics, which tracks, because how many times have we seen a Wild power play that suddenly looks like a penalty kill because the Wild spend more time defending than they do pushing the puck and trying to get set up offensively. On the penalty kill, pretty much what you would expect. Offensive zone time, below average, 28.1% compared to 29.5%, which is league average. So they spend not enough time in the offensive zone, creating opportunities, shorthanded. Neutral zone time, the Wild actually are in the 87th percentile. So the time that they spend in the neutral zone and the penalty kill, and neutral zone is good. You want to spend a good amount of your time either in the neutral zone or on the attack offensively and not trying to hunker down for your opponent. So the Wild, 87th percentile there, but defensive zone, 57.2% compared to league average, which is 56.6. That's, again, below 50th percentile. So NHL Edge is vibing with what we see from the eye test, but there are still a few other metrics in which further illustrate the point. We're going to talk about skating speed because as much of a concern as the shot speed may show, skating speed is worse. So we're going to finish talking about the skating speed and lack thereof for this Minnesota Wild team as we finish today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting at courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. And Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You are running out of opportunities to see the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Target Center, and Game Time can help you select the best seats possible for those final few games of the season. Same thing with the Minnesota Wild, and same thing as the Minnesota Twins get their season started here on Thursday. Now, they're on the road to start, but the home opener is April 3rd already. And Game Time can help you find great seats. My favorite feature of Game Time is the seat view, which shows you exactly what you'll see from your particular seat. So you don't have to worry about getting obstructed view or having a weird angle. There's nothing worse than having to sit in a weird angle and turn to watch your event. Game Time will give you the opportunity to get all that ironed out before you even click buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment of today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. A reminder, we will have a postcast for you coming up here after the game tonight. See if the Minnesota Wild can bounce back against the Vegas Golden Knights. No Tomas Hertl for the Golden Knights, but we could see Shea Theodore for the first time in a while. Jonas Brodin is... I think going to be in tonight in place of Declan Chisholm, who is day to day. Marcus Foligno still out. Marc-Andre Fleury is also in net. And Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson are going to begin skating sometime in the next few days. So there you have it. Let's get back to the NHL Edge stats, because I want to talk about skating speed. Another something that we have not seen a ton of. And they do a great job of kind of organizing it by category. So we'll start off with top skating speed. The Minnesota Wild achieved a top skating speed, and it doesn't say which player, but I think we can probably guess. 23.51 miles per hour. And league average top speed is 23.68. So the Wild, again, check in below 50th percentile. 22 plus mile an hour bursts, breakaways, player hopping out of the penalty box on the rush, a rush in general. 22 plus mile an hour bursts. The Wild have 44. League average to this point in the season is 69.1. So you're well below average there. But that's like 22 plus is the high end. That's the high end of the spectrum. So I guess I'm not surprised by that one as much as even looking at the 20 to 22 mile an hour bursts, which is your pretty average for teams with good speed. And the Wild there, 1,224 20 to 22 mile an hour bursts. League average is 1,419.8. Well below average. And even 18 to 20 mile an hour bursts. The Minnesota Wild have 6,293 of those. League average is 6,811. Well below average in all of those categories. And we didn't necessarily need NHL Edge to tell us that, but it is just interesting that you can have a team, that is just so not fast. Let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche just for comparison's sake. The Colorado Avalanche's top speed this season was 23.83 miles an hour. That is above league average. The Avalanche 22 plus mile an hour bursts. They have 185. League average is 69.1. So then they're in the 99th percentile in terms of 22 plus mile an hour bursts. 20 to 22 mile an hour bursts, they have 1,960. League average is 1,420 roughly. 99th percentile there. 18 to 20 mile an hour bursts, 7,591. League average is 6,800. 99th percentile there. As far as the shot speed goes, the Avs are pretty hit and miss. Below 50th percentile to 60s, 65, 66. But boy, are they fast. And where do their shot locations mostly come from? On high danger, they're below 50th percentile there. Medium danger, they are in the 96th percentile in shots on goal and goals. And in the long range department, they are also, they're in the 83rd percentile. And goals, they're in the 90th percentile. So they are just obviously a better offensive team than the Minnesota Wild, but that can just show you what having speed can do for your lineup. Is it just speed sets up odd man rushes, speed sets up breakaways, speed sets up different opportunities offensively. If you don't have the speed, then that becomes difficult. So the NHL Edge stats, this is one of the first times that I've really dove into them fully, and not to fully nerd out in this episode here today, because there is a game going on tonight. I It just, I think, further underscores the point that the Wild have a lot of players on the roster that are at least, defense first with limited offensive capabilities. You add some better offensive pieces to this mix, particularly in the speed column, and that can help prop this offense up a little more. But until you actually solve the problem with actual offense, as opposed to like, hey, this guy had a career year, why doesn't he just do it again? Until you actually solve the problem, this kind of stuff is just going to continue to happen. Now, I am planning to do a more deep dive approach into players like Marco Rossi, Matt Zuccarello, Matt Boldy, the analytics stats, to see what they have to say about their performance so far this year. Because I think we would all agree that that while they haven't been the problem per se, they could be doing a little more than they are. But we'll save that for another day. That is what we have for you here for today's episode. And we appreciate you tuning in as you do each and every day of the week. We'll have a postcast coming up for you tonight, so make sure to join us after the game. We'll see if the Wilds can pick up a win here tonight, or if the losing streak will become 2 in a row against top teams to start off this week. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already, so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.